All right. Welcome everyone to our Rouser College pre-health info session. My name is Jay Sevilla. I go by he, him, and I am the browser advisor for nutrition and metabolic biology majors or nutritional science majors. Today we have Irma Moreno from Berkeley Career Engagement Health Careers Counseling to give us an overview about all of the pre-health related things and questions and the ways that health careers counseling can serve you all as Rouser students interested in the different pre-health professional pathways. How this info session will be set up, Irma will go through a presentation. And if you want to put your questions into there's like a Q&A section at the bottom of your Zoom tools. Go ahead and put your questions into the Q&A because that will help me like check off when a question has been responded to either in chat or live. And then we'll answer those. We'll do our best to answer or respond to those questions at the end of this presentation. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass off to Irma.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for attending this overview that I do with Jay and Rouser College, and thank you for having invited us. As Jay said, I work with the Berkeley Career Engagement, formerly known as the Career Center, and we're here to help you with navigating your pre-health journey, whatever that may be, whether it's medicine, dentistry, nursing, PA, PT, things like that. This presentation is, I would have to say, more pre-medicine focused because that's the request that we get most of, but we will definitely talk about some other health careers as well. Let me see. Somehow I'm not able, okay. So here it is. We're going to talk about pre-health careers, recommendations, academic requirements, extracurricular activities, things that we can help you with at the BCE, and things that we do outside of the pre-health careers that you might be interested in. Okay. So pre-health careers really means not just medicine, but dentistry, like I said, pharmacy, physical therapy, optometry, physician assistant, nursing, occupational therapy, genetic counseling, veterinary medicine, podiatry, and the list can go on. There are others that are not included here. We rarely see them. For example, I get maybe one student interested in occupational therapy every 2 years, whereas with medicine, it's almost every day. So pre-health careers, they're all important to have a really strong GPA. That does not necessarily mean a 4.0, but it does mean that you need to have a strong GPA, and that's different for every type of career, like PharmD, for example, or medicine. A strong GPA for PharmD may not be as strong as for medicine, but medicine, again, you don't need a 4.0. It'd be good to meet with advisors and seek the resources available to you, either at Rouser, at another college, if you're a part of another college. And the most important thing is finding balance in your schedule, especially your first semester at Cal, whether you're a transfer student or a first year, is really learning to balance and seek out the rigor of the courses and how you feel about certain activities in which you're involved to make sure that you can still maintain a good GPA and be involved in some extracurricular activities. And participating in activities that you enjoy is really important. If you're interested in medicine, for example, not all your activities have to be medically oriented. The same if you're interested in pharmacy, not everything has to be chemistry or pharmacy based. It could be a wide array of things. Same with veterinary medicine. So for whatever career you choose or you're thinking about, majoring in something that interests you is super important. And there's no pre-med or pre-health major. For medicine and dentistry, we have students that have majored in English, music, at Rouser, and nutrition, neuroscience, psychology, cog sci, data sci, just everything. So the important thing is being flexible and adaptable and really focusing on the requirements, not just of your major, but the requirements for the health career you're interested in. For example, for medicine, the requirements are not as extensive as they would be for nursing. They're not extensive as they would be for even PharmD. So, a couple things about the academic aspect of the pre-health careers is that pass no pass is not accepted for requirements. So if PharmD requires you to take physiology, for example, you cannot take that pass not pass. If there is no requirement for it, like medicine doesn't require physiology, and if you wanted to take that pass not pass, that would be fine, but you would not be able to take biology pass not pass. I think for most programs, biology is required. Um, Another thing about the flexibility and adaptability is that schools do change requirements yearly. So it's good to kind of stay up to date and make sure that things are moving along. And as you move forward, some schools may drop requirements, some may add requirements. It varies from year to year. And again, most schools are not concerned with the amount of courses you take. I get this question a lot. I'm taking 12 units on a reduced course load, or I'm taking 17 units because I want to look good. That does not really work. 17 units is a lot. So really take a manageable course load where you can maintain your grades and you can do other things as well and also enjoy your time at Berkeley. So it's really important to have a balance. I think you're going to hear that word a lot. Same with having a double major or minor. It's not really necessary in order to be a more competitive applicant. Sometimes having a double major requires you to take more classes, which may interfere with your ability to really explore medicine or explore dentistry. So then it really doesn't do you any service to have a double major. Same with the minor. Again, it's not going to make your application more competitive for any of the pre-health careers. And for certain health careers, you have to remember, or certain health profession programs like veterinary medicine and nursing and PA, you will have to take some courses outside of Berkeley, preferably at a community college, because they're not offered at Berkeley. They're just not. So finding those courses is not hard. It's really usually at a community college. So one thing I get a question about AP courses to satisfy pre-med admissions. They do for some schools, but many do not accept AP courses, or they will accept AP courses for some things, but not others. So it's better for the main requirements like biology, chemistry, physics, and math, and to really take the courses at Berkeley. They will show a professional school that you have taken a competitive course load, that it has reinforced maybe the learning that you did in high school. Also, for some schools, those AP credits have to appear on your transcript, and it's really hard to figure out if they appear on your transcript or not. So you don't want to get into the application cycle thinking, oh, I took this course, it's an AP course, it was accepted at Berkeley, therefore it's accepted elsewhere. Not necessarily true. Harvard does not accept AP courses or community college courses at all. So the community college courses, if you're a transfer student, they might. It really is something that you'd have to petition the school, but they will not take AP credits for your English, for your math, for any of your sciences. So most schools do not accept AP credits for just the sciences, bio, chem, physics, and math. And so your application, you'll be a stronger candidate if you take those courses again in college. And again, schools change required courses frequently, so they may change their acceptances of AP courses. And that happened a lot during the pandemic. A lot of schools changed that. They weren't accepting AP, and then more of them began to accept AP courses in 2020. Community college courses, for those that are transfers, what you've taken at community college is fine. It is taken into accounted and generated into your overall GPA, your science GPA, if you've taken science courses at community college. Most health profession programs will accept certain courses at community college. Again, if you're a transfer student, all your prereqs may have been done at community college except for some of your upper divs, and that's totally fine. If you're at UC Berkeley for 4 years, it's recommended to take all the science requirements at UC Berkeley, but taking stats, psychology, English at community college is totally fine. Just make sure that it is a semester-based community college. You don't want to have a quarter of something and then semesters of everything else. So again, certain health professions have required courses that have to be taken at a community college, and that's fine. So for med school, these are the requirements. So it's 1 year of biology, 1A, 1B, with lab, and 1B has the lab built into it. 1 year of physics, 7A and B, or 8A and B. The chemistry sequence at Cal, which is 1A, 3A, and 3B with lab, MCB 102. If you're new to chemistry, we suggest you start with Chem 32. The other thing is that this is for med school. If you're talking about dentistry, pharmacy, occupational therapy, PA, you would have to add Chem 1B to this. And for PA programs, sometimes they require Chem 1A, Chem 1B, and only one of the organic chemistry courses. That's very school specific. PA programs are very school specific, so you have to really check with all the schools to make sure you're completing the required courses for that school. Rarely do they require biochemistry. Dentistry does require biochemistry, as does PharmD. So really looking at the type of school you want to enter into, the type of grad school. For example, for nursing, 1 year of biology is important and 1 year of general chemistry. They don't usually require organic chemistry. Again, school specific, depending if you're going for a master's in nursing or an accelerated nursing program, that could be a big difference. Upper division biology courses are important and 1 or 2 of your choice. For a lot of schools like nursing or PA, you do have to take anatomy and physiology, which are upper divs. And so that's going to take care of that. For medicine, not so much, but you should take at least 1 upper division biology course there, since there is 1 California school that requires it. Majors like engineering and chemistry have variations of the requirements, like MCB 102, for example. Most people will take that for biochem, but if you're an engineering major, you would take Bio E 103. So again, check with one of us, check with your academic advisor to make sure that you have the correct courses within your major. Recommendations for medical school are 1 year of English, a semester of stats and of calculus, and psych, soc, or anthro, because there is a section in the MCAT that has all 3 of those humanities areas. For dentistry, 1 year of English as well. So a lot of schools do require it, like UCSF and UOP. They will require psych, most of them. So you want to, again, check with one of us at BCE, or there are different publications that we can refer you to that list the schools and what they require. So extracurricular activities, and one thing that you're going to hear me say this again and again is that for medicine, the amount of hours is not important. For dentistry, for example, not so much for pharmacy, but for veterinary medicine and PA, those hours are important. But for medicine and PharmD, not so much. So leadership and other involvement. So remember that not all your activities have to be healthcare focused. So you may do intramural sports, or you may be part of an orchestra, or you're part of a dance team. All of that is good. You've learned some skills that are transferable to whatever profession you're interested in. Participating in activities you enjoy and committing for them for a year at least, if at least 1 semester, if not a year, if not more. Eventually taking on leadership roles in the clubs that you're part of. So becoming a director of something, a coordinator, a treasurer, doesn't always have to be like the highest position available in the club, but something that you've been able to rise up. Medical schools and other professional schools do want to see you take on leadership positions. There are a lot of student clubs, and the Lead Center lists all of them, and I'm sure many of you attended Calapalooza, where there was everyone and anyone out there. Remember that jobs that you may have that are not necessarily health related. So you're working at the library, you're working at Walgreens, or you're working at McDonald's even. I mean, all of those jobs would go on any application. They give you really good experiences, building skills, you're communicating, you're doing all kinds of different things, and all the things in which you participate that really lend themselves to the application. So when you're applying, don't think that it's only the medical things that you have to select. So research is generally not required for medical school or other health profession programs, but can be valuable and strengthen your application. And again, it doesn't have to be wet lab or dry lab. It can be psych, public policy, public health. Um, and it can provide you with training on how to think critically and approach unresolved problems. URAP is the best way to gain some of that experience on campus. A lot of our students do have URAP under their belt. And again, it's not, if you are not into research and you don't like it, then don't do it. Again, it's not required for, like, for example, for medical school. But if you were applying and didn't have research, then I would steer you away from schools that may prefer research in an application. But just the way there are schools that prefer research, there are schools that don't take research into consideration in the application process. So it's important to remember that. Reaching out to professors is a good way to also maybe get that experience. And I would recommend meeting with some of the peer advisors at the Office of Undergraduate Research to figure out what you need to include in an email, reaching out to a professor, or what best time of the year to do that. There are certain times of the year they don't recommend. I don't have those memorized, but there are people that can help you there. So really, again, utilizing the resources that you have on campus is really important. So again, clinical experience. And again, for medical school, no amount of hours is required. I know there's something out there on Reddit or somewhere that says 500 hours or 200 hours, and that's not true. But you do need that clinical experience. So you want experience interacting with patients. Now, as a first, second, third, even senior, you are not going to be able to treat patients. You're not going to be able to take vitals, but you can provide them with services like finding resources, making appointments, ambulating them, providing them with instructions on certain things like coaching the patient, or finding ways for them to get certain services that they need. And there are various clubs on campus that you can find those opportunities. You can volunteer, you can be paid for it, you can work full-time, part-time. Hospital scribe is one, medical assistant, and most of our students that do medical assisting do not have a certificate. EMT, you do need a certificate. You're not going to be able to be an EMT usually when you're in school, because those jobs take up a lot of time, and so it's really hard to navigate that. But there are some clubs on campus that you can use your EMT license, like BMRC or RockMed. Those are good ways to utilize if you have an EMT license. There are some farm tech positions out there. Definitely at Tang, I think there's a farm tech position that's available for certain students. Phlebotomy, you do need a license for that. And for that, I would say if you are interested in PA, that's a good way to earn some patient care experience, where you will need at least 2,000 hours, if not more than that, in order to get into a PA program. So there is a website, our website, with clinics and hospitals and nonprofits that we have listed that will take volunteers. And most of them are volunteer opportunities or clubs on campus where you can find those opportunities. I can think of like Blood Pressure Project, Kidney Disease Screening Project. There's a group of folks that go to senior homes and polish the nails of residents and spend time with the elderly there. And that's a good way to get experience as well. So just to let you know also, clinical experience is not shadowing, and shadowing is not clinical. So, one of the reasons that schools like to have you have this clinical experience, because you find out more about what that health profession does. It gives you the impression of what a career in healthcare may mean for you. A lot of people do volunteer, And after sophomore or junior year, they come in and say, this isn't for me. I don't want to do this. The work-life balance is awful, or I don't like dealing with people that smell, things like that. So you get to learn about patients, you discover your likes, your dislikes, and really are able to articulate better when you write a personal statement why you want to pursue the career you want to pursue. And it helps you really define that. And that's what they want to see. They want you in the personal statement, they want to see your exploration of this particular role, whether it's a PharmD, whether it's an MD. They want to see that you've explored that. And the way to explore it is by really doing some of the work, as seeing the way the work is done and saying, this is really what I want to do for the rest of my life, or thanks, but no thanks. I'm gonna go elsewhere and find some other type of career. So shadowing health professional allows you to follow them throughout their day and see what patients and what they do behind the scenes, and it's beneficial for day to day. So it's not required for med school, but it is really required for dental, vet, and PT. So for dental, for example, there are schools, I think the minimum I've seen for dental shadowing is 50 hours and the maximum 100. And usually when they say 100, you want to have a little bit over that. For vet, you definitely want to have over that. For veterinary medicine, you do need to shadow or work under a veterinarian for a period of time. And again, it varies from school to school. For PT, the same thing goes for that. They will actually, during the application process, send the PTs you've worked with a form to fill out saying how much time you've spent working with them and shadowing them. And it is not considered patient care experience, especially for purposes of PA programs where you need PCE, patient care experience. But shadowing can help you understand what you like in the profession, like I said before in the slide. So the majority of our students will take one or more gap years between undergrad and graduate programs, especially if they are PA or PT students, because it requires gaining a certain number of PCE, which is, again, patient care experience. So it may be hard to do everything in 4 years. So having to spend time becoming a competitive applicant in the years after you graduate is really important, especially again for PA. For PA, if a school says they want to see 2,000 hours of PCE, which is really 1 year full-time work, they really mean they want to see about 3,000 hours. So in order to be competitive, you have to have a little bit more than what they require. So the important thing here is not to compare yourself with other students, is really finding your own path and thinking what works for you. For some students, you may have to have a job, and so it may interfere with your ability to find those experiences and have to do them after you graduate, and that's fine. Dentistry is the one professional school that students will go straight through a lot of times, but there are a lot of times where people take 1 year off as well to gain experience they need, especially in the shadowing. If they don't have it, they will take that 1 year. I've known people to take up to 2 years for dentistry, and that's been fine. Dental schools do not oppose that. So here are some of the resources that we have at the Berkeley Career Engagement. So it's, career planning and exploration, resume, cover letters, personal statements. So we have peer advisors that are there every day, Monday through Friday. Friday it's remote, but in person, 12 to 4, Monday through Thursday, where you can drop in and have your resume reviewed. You can sign up for a one-on-one appointment with myself or Emily, who are the health career counselors, to review personal statements. And that's for health profession programs that you're applying to, but it can sometimes, what we do is work with students that are applying to clubs, for example, or internships. We will review some of the materials that you submit to make sure that you're on the right track. We practice for interviews. So we do mock interviews, not just for jobs. I've had mock interviews for students that are going to be interviewing at Berkeley Free Clinic, for example, and some that are applying to professional schools right now is interview season. So I've worked with students applying to dental and to medical programs applying. and being interviewed. So we do mock interviews, pre-health application planning. So trying to figure out a timeline that works best for you, when to take the exams, whether it's the DAT, the MCAT, or any other, the GRE, for example. We do provide internship and job support, but we don't place students, nor do we have a list of job internships that are out there, especially for pre-health students. We provide interview rooms. So if you have an interview with an employer or with a school and you don't have the space, your roommates are there, you kind of want a secluded spot, we do have interview rooms available that you can rent out for 2-hour periods. We have a professional headshot photo booth where you can come in and take a picture for an application that you're submitting, for your LinkedIn account, for anything else that you may need on a professional level. And we host career fairs and networking events, and we provide workshops in a variety of things. We also have a decal on career exploration if you're interested in participating in that. It runs each semester, so you would have to apply for next semester, or join it next semester. So when you make an appointment with us, you can do that through Handshake. You can always ask a quick question to us via email at prehealth@berkeley.edu. We have drop-in hours on Thursdays. Right now, they're from 9 to 11 and 1 to 3. That may change, so keep an eye on our website. Our website will be updated. Like we had to cancel last week's afternoon session, so that was on the website. Throughout 30-minute appointments that you can sign up on Handshake, we will meet with you. We will answer your questions as far as career exploration, again, timelines, etc. And this is where we're located at 2440 Bancroft Way. So what to expect, exploring health careers. We can help you find resources or opportunities, timeline, the requirements, the activities needed, assistance with school applications, mock interviews. And then we do have a newsletter that goes out. You can sign up through Handshake. So signing up is pretty easy. We put it out maybe every 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the information that we get that we want to share with you. We get information on everything. We are part of an advisor group that meets with medical schools, that meets together to have that information readily available. Again, it may be, I think, optometry is having a workshop or an open house, the School of Optometry in Berkeley. On Saturday, we've been promoting that. UC Davis Pre-Health Conference coming up October 18th, and Davis is a really good way to explore health careers. We've been definitely advertising that. There are a lot of med schools, dental schools, pharmacy schools that have open houses that are virtual. So we will definitely inform students. Once we get information, that's where we post it. We do have an Instagram account, but we do mostly post it on Career Mail first and then Instagram as well. So this is the way you stay connected. So that's our Instagram handle. Feel free to, follow us and learn of, like I said, whenever we have any kind of information to pass on, whether it's from clubs on campus, people outside of campus, other schools, info sessions, fairs of school fairs, we will go ahead and share that information. And this is where we're located, and that's the booth where you would come in and pose and edit your picture and then share it. So it is available for you to stop by. It's for faculty, staff, and students, and it's free, and it's open year-round. That's our information. I am Edema, and then there's Emily Nahum, who is the other career counselor that is a pre-health counselor. So feel free to contact either one of us or make an appointment with either one of us. So questions?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Irma. Before we get into questions, for everyone, I put in the chat the Berkeley Career Engagement link to sign up for Handshake or to log into Handshake if you're already signed up. as well as the Health Careers Counseling webpage for all the different ways that you can connect with a health careers counselor, find the prerequisites and other resources for your different and preferred pre-health pathways, which is one of the questions that was put into the Q&A. And yes, definitely want to promote, if you're able to go visit the Career Engagement office. It is a very nice looking office. And then once you're done, you can go to that wonderful boba tea place at the very end of the corner on Bancroft, or my favorite crumble, which I really enjoy going to and need to limit myself. So some of the questions, thanks everyone for using the Q&A. This is really helpful for me to answer anything that I know live, and some of those have already been answered, and you can see that. And I also let people know if a question that they posted was being answered live to, pay attention. Here's where it's being answered. So some of the questions that are still remaining, I'll go ahead and share. And then Irma, if you want to, oh, sorry, not Irma. And then if anyone, once we go through these Q&A questions, if you want to raise your hand and then we can answer some live as well, that would be really awesome. So the first question, I'm a third year student, not a transfer, so third year, first year student, first year admit, who is just switching onto the pre-med track. My GPA is not as high as I think would be competitive. Do you have any advice on how to raise my GPA to a more competitive standard while keeping it realistic, like a 3.5, 3.55?
So you're not, this person is not a transfer student
Not a
or is?
transfer, third year, but they were admitted as a first year freshman, it sounds like.
Okay. That I've never heard of, so it's interesting. Um, so yeah, first of all, just there is no formula for getting into any of these schools, including medical schools. So it's hard for me to say, well, a competitive GPA is a 3.5 or a 3.6, a 4.0. There are ranges that every school has, and those ranges change year after year. So depending on what the school is, the prior class, what it looked like, what they're accepting. Um, the best way to really strengthen a GPA is really taking the science courses that are needed and doing well in those. And that may mean that some of the activities that you're doing may have to have a pause in them so that you can do well in them. Again, medical schools do look at the amount of time you spend on these activities, not to count them out and say, this is what you need. You need 500 hours or 400 hours, but really to see how you balance your schoolwork and the activities in which you've been part of. They want to know if you have good time management skills. So really focusing on the science GPA, maybe taking upper division courses where science courses, either neuro, IB, MCB, that can help you strengthen your foundational sciences and strengthen your application further, whether it's your overall GPA, but also your science GPA. I hope that answers the question.
Cool, thank you, Irma. Next question. You mentioned previously about some schools that would prefer research experience. Do you have any examples of schools that prefer that?
Sure, like Northwestern in Chicago, um, Washington University in St. Louis, Stanford to a certain extent, Duke, University of Michigan. Those are some schools that prefer, not to say they will not take students. Like I had a student get into Stanford with no research experience. They are a school that prefers research that I've seen in the past, but occasionally, and same with other schools like Duke or University of Michigan. Remember that the review of your application is holistic. So it's not just about the grades and the MCAT score and the letters of rec, the activities you've been part of, how you put your application together, and your reasoning for being a physician. Do you fit within that school? Are you a good fit for them? Are they a good fit for you? So selecting a school is really important. If research is important to you, yes, you want to find a school that that does focus a lot on research. John Hopkins is one that if you don't have research, you just don't apply there. And I'm not talking 1 year of research. For Hopkins, it's a lot of years of research under your belt because they are a big research institution. So you want to have that, but you also want to, demonstrate other things that they may be looking for. And just it's a holistic review, and you just have to realize that everything is taken into consideration.
Awesome. Thank you. And what I'm about to send to the chat for everyone, when Irma was mentioning different research opportunities or specifically URAP on campus, I also want to promote that as a Rouser student, you specifically also have access to SPUR, sponsor never mind. I'm not going to know what this acronym stands for. Oh, wait, I have it right here. Sponsored projects for undergraduate research, and this is only available to Rouser students. So it's a less competitive pool to apply to for research projects, both student initiated and faculty initiated. So for those that are interested in gaining research experience and just want to, you know, broaden the different pool of projects that you can apply to. Spur is a wonderful opportunity that you have as Rouser students. Okay.
I see a
Oh,
question
sure.
in the chat. So it says, can you talk a little about strategy and course selection? For example, should a pre-med student take anatomy since it's not a pre-med requirement and is taught in the first year of med school? Is there an application advantage for students who've completed it and done well in anatomy at Berkeley? So it doesn't give you an advantage in the application process. If you want to take anatomy because you know that it is going to be given that first year, anatomy and physiology, and want to have a little stronger foothold in it than maybe other people that have not taken it, that's fine. I wouldn't discourage it. Medical schools don't look for that necessarily. A lot of students in IB and MCB have to take a lot of these courses. I will say that most of the students I've met in the process that have gone on to medical school and they stay in touch or get back to me. Not all of them are MCBIB. Some are Rousers, some are English majors, some are music majors. They all do very well. I do encourage students to take at least one upper division course if they are not IB or MCB or neuro, just because it does give you a better foundation. So in medical school, those first 2 years or year and a half before you take the boards are foundational sciences. They include human anatomy, physiology, immunology, genetics, pharmacology, and everything else. Having some of that is a good foundation, but if you don't have it, you're still competitive and you will still do well.
All right. Thank you. Continue to send all of your cute questions into the chat, everyone. And that way we can also record it too in case there's other ways that we can try to respond to this if we ever run out of time. So the next question is, do students usually shadow throughout the semester or during their summer/winter breaks?
So for medicine, again, shadowing is not as important as actually doing something. So if you're a scribe, for example, you are technically shadowing, but you're doing something else. You're taking notes, you're learning, you're interacting with patients. It's a much better experience. So shadowing, students do it in a variety of ways. Now, since the pandemic, it has been harder to find shadowing opportunities. If you have 10 hours of shadowing, that's fine. For medicine. Now, for dental programs, again, you need between 50 and 100 hours in order to be a competitive applicant for some of the programs out there. And each program is a little different. So I would say the average is about 50 hours. And I don't think our students have a hard time finding those opportunities, and they do them throughout the year. They do it in the summer. They usually do 2 years. They usually go above and beyond the amount of hours required for a dental program. For PA, that's really no shadowing really required. I think that one, they just want you to get in there and deal with patients and work with patients. There's something called, again, patient care experience, but there's also hospital care experience where you're getting maybe volunteering at a hospital, meeting and greeting patients as they come in, bringing them water, bringing in blankets. That's HCE, which is hospital care experience. And you also need some of that for PA besides the PCE. So getting that experience throughout college is important. Yeah, so shadowing, it depends on the profession that you're pursuing, whether you should do it or not, or just make it part of something else. I mean, if you're doing research, for example, especially clinical research, you are working with mostly patients, bringing on board a clinical trial, for example. You may be working with your PI, who's a physician, and meeting those patients and shadowing that PI in a way. So you're doing something, but you're also shadowing. So incorporating that as part of the activity that you're doing is important.
Wonderful. Just a time check, everyone, that we have less than 15 minutes left of this info session. So I'm also going to put into the chat again the Health Careers Counseling webpage so that you can find the ways to connect or email a health careers counselor for ways to answer or ask those questions and just get more information. So next question, what are some examples of some paid jobs to do during gap years that may help with med school applications?
Well, I've had students do a whole array of things. There's no one thing. Um, Again, if you have no clinical experience, if you've never worked with patients, getting a job where you are working with patients at least for a year before you apply is important, whether it's EMT work, whether it's medical assisting, clinical research coordinating, clinical coaching, advocating for patients, working with patients in some capacity for a year before applying, and then spending the application year also continuing to work in that environment. Um, a lot of students will do a variety of things. They'll do a part-time clinical research coordinating position and maybe find something fun to do, like teaching kids how to swim, or working at a food pantry. I've had some students who have written for certain journals. Had a student who taught kindergarten for 2 years and she was volunteering doing something else. Or I've had students who have gone on to work in biotech for a couple of years, but continue to volunteer at a clinic for the time that they're working, whether it's 3 times a month or whatnot. And they were really trying to decide what they wanted to do in their life. And they felt that medicine is the route they wanted to take. So then they applied to medical school.
Awesome. This question has a thumbs up, like an up vote, and I think it's a really, as an advisor, I think this is a really important question that should be represented. So if
Mhm.
we had a strong GPA but had a year of academic difficulty from hardships, will this significantly impact my chances?
No. So medical schools like to see an upward trend. Same with dental programs, PharmD programs. Upward trend is important. It's natural for you to be a 17, 18-year-old, no matter where you started, whether it's community college or Berkeley, where you have maybe faltered a little and gotten some not so good grades. But then as you learn your how you learn best, your way to manage the work that you're having, or you had some personal problems and we're taking care of that and they've been taken care of, you start seeing an upward trend in your grades. That's important. Remember, and this is something that a dean told me a long time ago, that they are not accepting to medical school an 18 or 17-year-old, but rather they're accepting someone that's learned in the last 4 years or 5 years and matured, and they're now 22 or 23 years old. So don't beat yourself up for that. If there was something that interfered or impacted you, most applications have an area where you can talk about something that has impacted you and your grades or your MCAT or whatever else. What's important about that is it's okay to talk and you're not making excuses. For example, if you had something happen in freshman or sophomore year where, one semester wasn't as great because there were some personal issues that came into play. When you write that out, you talk about as much as you want about the personal issue, if you want to talk about it. And if not, you just say personal issue. And then you mostly talk about the overcoming. So that happened to me maybe first semester of sophomore year, but then the second semester I went to the Student Learning Center. I talked to my advisor on how to adjust my courses, and I've had an upward trend. And that's what I want to focus on when I talk about that, is that yes, that happened, but since then I have learned to ask for help. All the things that I learned about that and how that helped me grow. And that's what's important. So, life happens. Life happens when you're in professional school, whether it's med school or dental school, it's going to happen. So they want to see how you've learned from that, how you can take care of that if it were to happen again. So again, you're not the same person that you were when that happened that you are when you're applying. You've hopefully grown from that.
Awesome. Thank you, Irma. We
Mhm.
have less than 10 minutes and four questions, but I think I can consolidate two of these questions together.
Okay.
Um, Thoughts on post-bac programs and or SMP, which I believe is special master's programs. How do we know if we should pursue one?
Well, I think meeting with an advisor is really important to meet with someone. You don't really, postback should never, ever be a goal. Same with SMPs. That should never be a goal. I used to work for a postback program, and that's the first thing we always said to students, we should never be a goal for you. The goal is to really, again, have the upward trend. If there are classes that need to be retaken, if there are classes that need to be strengthened, we can talk about it's very individual. There are different types of postbacks, and you really want to avoid postbacks for a variety of reasons. Not so much because it doesn't look good. It's fine if you have to do a postback, but they're costly. There's no financial aid, and they're time consuming. So it really does lengthen out the time that you get to your end goal, but also it's very expensive. They can be very expensive. Same with special master's programs. Now, I don't recommend special master's programs because a lot of programs really mislead students. Getting a master's in something doesn't make you more competitive. Master's coursework is not calculated with your undergraduate coursework, it's calculated separately. Whereas a postbac program where you are taking classes to strengthen your application, those courses are generated within your undergraduate GPA to make it stronger. So you have to be really careful about what you select. If you're going for a special master's program, they're very expensive. A lot of them make a lot of promises that they don't keep. So really doing your research around that is super important.
Awesome. Thank you, Irma.
Mhm.
Next question is having a cover letter recommended for every sort of application. I think what they're thinking of including in that cover letter is like clinical hours, shadowing, research, etc.
If it's for a job, that's separate. For applications, there's a general application. So for medical school, you apply for allopathic medicine, MD, you have the AMCAS. If you're applying osteopathic, you have the ACOMAS. And if you're applying for naturopathic medicine, it's the ANC, I think it's called. Those are general applications. No one's asking, they will ask for all your activities, how much hours you spent doing it, etc. The CASPA, which is the PA program, also has a general application. The PharmD has the PharmCAS, optometry, OptiCAS. So they ask for your personal information, your parents' information, your financial information, schools that you've attended, grades that you've had, tests that you've taken, like the DAT or the OAT or the MCAT, and activities that you've had, whether they're jobs, whether they're medically related clubs, any extracurricular activity, any job you've had, any time you've spent outside the classroom is asked for. Your letters of recommendation, your personal statement. That's what's incorporated in all those applications. And then the schools at some point get access to that application, and they may send what is called a supplemental or a secondary application, which is pertinent to only that school. They're school specific. For dental programs, they're called supplemental. So the minute you apply to UCSF, you get their supplemental. For medicine, it's a little bit different. They will screen and then send a secondary to you. So it varies from profession to profession, but pretty much the same in that they gather all that information. Now, if you're talking about work and jobs that you're seeking, yes, every job should have a different cover letter specifically for that particular job. We have some examples on our website for cover letters, and you can always come in and meet with a peer advisor to go over a cover letter, and they can show you a framework for one.
Awesome. Thank you, Irma. This
Mhm.
will likely have to be our last question, everyone, just for the sake of time. So once again, do reach out to our health careers counselors. There are different ways to connect with them via email, drop-in advising, and then appointments for first years will open up in October, so very soon. So the last question, I'm going to try to, or the last two, I'm going to try to consolidate because it's kind of similar. It's
Mhm.
basically comparing um, should I do research or clinical experience if I have leadership in an extracurricular club or if I have all of this AP, IB transfer credit? So it seems like there's a theme of there's like non-research clinical things that a student might be doing or might have. How does that compare to getting research slash clinical experience work?
You should always opt for clinical experience first because that's something they want to see. You can have all the research in the world for 4 years, and students have had that, but they have no experience with patients. They're not going to get into medical school. So it's important to really, if you have the opportunity to do advocacy, education for patients, or any kind of outreach to patients that you can do, that's going to be more important than research. You can do research, or you can try to do both, but it's you're always going to need to have that experience with patients. And that's a little bit harder to get sometimes than research. I mean, you can do both. Um, and at some point, after you've gotten enough time doing you feel you've had enough time with patients, maybe incorporating research into it or vice versa. But at some point, you're going to have to work with patients. As far as AP and IB, again, I would really think about what it is you have IB and AP in, because there are a lot of schools that won't take those. So you may have to redo some courses, or you may feel that you have to redo them at Cal. Be careful with that. Again, a lot of schools do not accept AP or IB. So you want to make sure that that's all covered. You don't want to get to the point where you're applying and you're not able to apply to certain schools because they don't accept that. And again, a lot of the schools back east will not accept AP or IB.
Wonderful. Thank you, Irma.
Mhm.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. The last thing I'm going to send to the chat for our Rouser students, which I mean, you all, I believe, should be. I've created a matrix of like, here's the major, the Rouser major that you are in, or maybe want to declare or switch into, and here prerequisites are typically fulfilled by this major for a wide scope of pre-health pathways. Here's things that you would likely need to add if you're in this major, and also has links for the Health Careers Counseling website, how to connect with your major advisor or your intended major advisor, and then similar to the Health Careers Counseling website, the links to their prerequisites page for the different career path. Um, this will be sent to you with the recording once it's transcribed, and hopefully the wonderful presentation that Irma created as well. Um, and so just want to say again, thank you, Irma, for joining us and for giving us so much wonderful information about how to be a Cal student, a Rouser student, and explore, pursue, pre-health professional pathways. So with that, I will stop this recording.